From Relay FM, this is Connected, episode 253. Today's show is brought to you by Squarespace, Pingdom, and TextExpander. It is an odd-numbered episode, so I get to introduce Myke Hurley to the show. Hi, Myke. Hi, Myke. It's me. I'm hosting today, and I'm still a guest co-host, I guess. Federico, hello.
This is the strangest introduction I've ever witnessed.
Yep.
Hello, Myke, and Myke too.
Well, look, here's the
Both of
thing.
you.
After last week's episode, I've decided that I want to talk 10 times more than usual on this episode. So I'm going to go about saying things in a way that might be superfluous in nature, just so I can try and win back some of the time that I lost from the previous episode.
You don't have to win. It's not mandatory for you to win it back.
I just feel like I didn't give all the Myke fans out there the hot words that they were looking for, you know?
Is that what you think people expect from you? Hot words?
I think that there is a certain subset of people that expect a lot of words from me, yeah, and they want it. And when they come to the episode and I'm like croaking the occasional yap at them, I don't think that they're not leaving the episode happy.
I think people were happy, judging from the reactions that we've seen.
It was it was one of those things where we made a judgment call before last week's episode, decided that I would be on the show and that I would say one word, and people seemed to enjoy it. Marina Ivanova and Myke Apurin made a website called MykeTheOracle.space, which is basically me as a magic 8-ball. So think about a question, you ask the Oracle, and you press a button to hear the prophecy, and they have clipped my many, many words from last week's episode and play them back to you, and it can help you. So, for example, you could say, like, is Stephen Hackett here today? And it says, hear the prophecy.
Let's see.
The prophecy said yes to me, which is not true because he isn't. He's on holiday.
Will I finish writing the iOS 13 review by August 20? It's a yes.
Oh, that's good news. This is an Oracle. Stephen won't be here today, though. The Oracle can't be right all the time. We are entering Connected Vacation season. That's happening now. What that means is, over the next, I don't know, couple of months, we're all over the place.
Not a couple of months. Next month.
Right, but I'm taking some trips later. He's taking some trips later. You know, like I know your trips are confined, but I think it's that we don't do like I take a trip, you take a trip, Steven takes a trip. They're like spread out. So like there might be 2 weeks where we're all back to normal, and then one of us is gone again. And you know, I'm sure it adds to some variation and some wild introductions like this one where I'm just rambling on and on and on. But we are actually, believe it or not, see, this is what happens when Steven's not around. We are already in follow-up, but nobody declared us, so.
Well, that's how what we do. It's the follow-up sneaks up on you.
It does.
You don't even notice. You don't even notice it's happening until you know it's happening.
I'm going to betray follow-up by immediately doing some follow-out. And the follow-out is to upgrade episode 255. On last week's episode, I was there, but you two spoke about Apple podcast exclusives. And Stephen asked me to provide some follow-up of my thoughts on this. I just spoke about them with Jason on Upgrade instead. So if you want to hear my thoughts on Apple potentially making exclusive podcasts, go listen to episode 255 of Upgrade.
I just listened to that yesterday, and it was a really good episode, and
Thank you.
Especially liked that segment.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we pre-recorded that episode because Jason was away, and we needed things to talk about, and that was one of the things that we could talk about.
It was good to hear your voice again.
Yeah. I'm pretty much back to normal. That was the first time in my entire 10-year podcasting career that I have lost my voice. Like, to that extent. You know, I've had colds and stuff like that, but that was a wild experience. And it only lasted for like a day and a half. I don't think I even said on the show, well, I didn't. I don't think it was a why. There was a reason that I'd lost my voice. It wasn't just that I had a cold. Do you know? Did I tell you?
I think I know the reason.
But in the morning, I spent some time with a school. I went in and did some workshops and stuff with a school who invited me to come and speak to them, which was a really rewarding experience. But when you talk to 4 different classes of school children for 4 hours straight, it is possible you will lose your voice, and especially if you have a little cold, which I did. So like I had a just a cold, really. But I sounded significantly more sick than I actually was, which was kind of funny because people were like personal friends, like close friends, were like messaging me, like, "Are you all right? Like, you sound very sick." It's like, I wasn't that bad. It sounded very bad. I wasn't that bad.
Yeah, when I told Sylvia that you had lost your voice after talking to kids at a school, she looked at me, and she teaches dance. She teaches hip hop to kids, and she looked at me with she said something like, "Yeah, I know, I know what that feels like."
Yep.
When she started doing that, especially the first couple of years, she would always lose her voice in just one afternoon. So talking to kids sounds terrible. Don't do it, especially if you're a podcaster.
There you go.
You had your first rock star moment, Myke, when you lost your voice. You needed to cancel your concert. In this case, it was not a concert; it was a podcast episode.
And I didn't
sort of canceled it. You sort of canceled it.
I sort of canceled it. I wanted to talk about my Echo show a little bit more because I didn't really get to share any of the feelings about it. My one-word answers did not do a good enough job of describing why I bought this device, and I have now been using it for over a week, so I have some extended thoughts. So the main reason that we wanted to change our Echo is our original Echo, which was a Generation 1 Echo, could not hear us very well. And my thinking was on this that basically it had just gotten too old, like that either the microphones were degrading or we had gotten so used to the HomePod's sensitivity that we were starting to realize where the Echo was failing more often. So I decided I wanted to get a new Echo, and I thought that it was maybe time to try out the Echo Show, which is something that I've been interested in. Like, what is one of these devices like with a screen? And part one has been completely satisfied, right? Like, it can hear us excellently, about as good as the HomePod does, and in ways that it couldn't before. So we have an extractor fan in the kitchen, right? You know, like one of those hoods that goes over the top of the oven, and it sucks in fumes or whatever. When we would have that on, the previous Echo could never hear, but the new one does, which is great. And also, I have found that the visual aid of the script that the screen provides is really great. So, for example, multiple timers is wonderful because they list them on the screen, right, when you're setting them. It has a little countdown, which I enjoy. When you're 10 seconds from the timer setting off, a little countdown pops up on the screen, which is good because it catches your attention. So you can kind of start getting prepared to do the next thing. And, you know, like especially if you're cooking. And really, like, the Echo has been a kitchen assistant for us for basically its entire life. And we use it for these things every single day, right? Because we actually cook like from scratch meals every day, right? Like, I know not everybody does that, and it's just no judgment. It's just a thing that we like to do, right? So, like, we take a bunch of ingredients and we make a meal out of them, right?
You know
what
how
I'm
do
saying
people
with that,
cook
right?
otherwise?
From
Is there another way?
Frozen meals or ready meals?
Oh, no, don't do that.
No, people can do that. It's. I understand that it's okay for people to do that, but like we cook with real recipes every day, right? Like, that's just like a thing that we do at home, and we like to do that. So there are lots of uses for timers and stuff like that. And I know that people seem to really talk about the timer thing as like it's like this be all end all of a smart assistant device. But sometimes it is a very important thing. I have never found myself to be completely satisfied even with the multiple timers on the HomePod. I find Siri to just not have that stuff nailed down as well. Sometimes it wants to set reminders, and it just doesn't work very well for me. I have not been very happy with that. But the Echo does a fantastic job of it. And I also like, I've spoken about the grocery app that we use, or like the grocery service that we use has an Echo skill. And because it's on the show, what I like is when you say like, hey, order me table salt or whatever, it will pop up an image of the thing it's adding to the cart, which is just a nice additional thing to have. So you can be like, oh yeah, that is the one that I buy. So I like that. I enjoyed the digital photo frame thing. It's just a nice addition. But here's one of the big things about the Echo Show, and I think it's one of the ways that people have struggled with it in the past that I kind of have realized quite quickly. It's not to think of it as a touchscreen device. It is a voice assistant that has a screen. And I know that that maybe sounds pretty simplistic, but if you try and use that thing like an iPad, you will be really upset because the touchscreen is not it is not responsive. It is not a very responsive device. Like, I feel like I'm doing things to it and I'm swiping and I don't know what it thinks I'm doing or not doing, but it's not acting the way that I expect. But to think of this device as something that is like touch first is wrong anyway. It's like it is a voice assistant for me still that also provides visual aid, and I really like it for that. So to try and use it as little as possible as a touchscreen device is actually a better way to use this thing, and I think people would be happier with it overall. Like, it has a web browser built in, right? And so now when we want to get recipes up, we use the web browser. The web browser sucks, but it's serving its purpose, right? Because now it is like just the one thing that we have to have in the kitchen. Because I was never happy with the kitchen iPad situation. It just never really worked the way that I wanted to, because it had to be signed into someone's iCloud account, which is just like not what I wanted. And then you have to like disable a bunch of stuff, and it was too much going on. But I really like the Echo Show for that, right? Like, we can bring up some recipes. We can just leave the recipes open as tabs, right? And you can just click through to our favorite recipes in little tabs, and that's it, and that's done, and that works. But I really like just kind of the overall assistant with a screen thing. I actually think that, and if you think of it in that mode of like, I'm still going to speak to this, but it's going to show me some stuff sometimes, I actually am a fan of this product. I think that it's really cool.
So where is this placed in your kitchen?
On top of my microwave.
Okay. Interesting.
I'm sure that could be a problem, but we use the microwave maybe 3 times a year. I actually don't even know why we still have it. But a microwave feels like one of those things that is in the kitchen, and when you don't have one, you're just really mad, right? Because it's like, well, now what am I going to do? I need a microwave. So we have.
I don't have one.
We used to use one a lot more, but we don't anymore. If, for example, if there is another kitchen appliance that we want to purchase and we need the space, I'll get rid of the microwave. But right now, we don't need the space on the counter. Like, we're good. But it's there if ever we need it. But yeah, I'm a fan of it. I don't know if I'd recommend it to everyone, but I do really like it.
I would like to have a HomePod with the screen. I struggle to imagine a scenario where we're going back to having 2 assistants in the home.
Yeah, I think that's more of the point that I'm trying to make, honestly. That like these devices are great. These like voice-based devices, but screens on them are really useful because it can help give you more information. Like, when I ask for the weather now, it tells me today, but it also shows me tomorrow. So if I can see it, I can get more information out of it, but I don't have to, and then it's not overburdening me with information that I don't need, that I'm not asking for. Right, and it's like that. It's like, oh, you know what? I like that, or like I can see the date and time whenever I want it. Or if I ask for the time, it will just give me the time. But if I'm close to it, I can get an extra piece of information, and that's kind of what I like. It's like you when you're just conversing with it or getting commands, it will do what you're asking it to, but additional information exists for you if you want it, and I actually quite like that. It's a good balance, I think.
Yeah. This multiplicity of form factors is one of the great advantages of the Echo platform.
Yeah, you can get any of them.
Speaker.
Yeah, you get big screen, small screen, medium screen, right? Like, they have 2 sizes of Echo Show. You can get the little circular one, or you can get like 3 sizes of just the voice one, right? Like, or you can get a clock that has it in, or a microwave, right? Like, that's why I like this platform. Right, and also I think that the skills, I don't know how good they are, but I like that so many like, we just got a new fan today. About 3 years ago, we got one of the Dyson Hot and Cool fans. So like, it's a fan, but it's also a heater, and we are entering a horrific heat wave here in the United Kingdom. It is going to be 37 degrees Celsius tomorrow.
Yeah, it was 37 here today.
But
I get you. Yeah.
But you've been here in that kind of heat. You know we're not built for it.
Yeah,
right.
You're not.
So that's like it's going to be about 99 degrees Fahrenheit. So like the UK cannot cope with it. So I've had my eye on one of these another fan that Dyson makes for a while, and I've been putting some money aside for it because it is not cheap, but it is also a humidifier as well. It's called like
nice.
The hot cool pure link or something. Like it's a crazy name, but it has like smart assistant support, including shortcuts, which I was really surprised about. It's not a HomeKit product, but it is they do have shortcut support, I've set it up with Siri as well already.
Well, I just looked it up for you, and I just want to let you know that Homebridge has a native Dyson Link package that you could use. Just saying.
I'm not surprised, but the shortcut support very good, right? So you go into a specific view, so you go into the app, and it shows you all of the controls. And you select a custom set of controls. So, like, I want it to be cold at level 7 with the air purifier on and rotating 45 degrees. And then you save a shortcut with all those settings.
Oh, nice.
So, like, it's very cool. But they have an Echo skill, and you can natively ask for all of that stuff with the Echo skill, right? Like, I don't need to set it up like I do with shortcuts. Like, I can just say, hey, turn the air purifier on, and it works. I don't have to do it beforehand. Where it's not built that way, because I don't even know if they can be a HomeKit product. I have no idea, but yeah. I love Dyson products, man.
Yeah, me too. And we've been keeping an eye on the fan for a while. We're probably going to upgrade to the V11 vacuum.
Those vacuums are the best. The ones that you hand. We have like the V8 or something.
Yeah.
The Animal is called.
We have the Animal Pro as well.
Yeah, I love Dyson products. They're really well made.
Yeah.
Really well
And
made.
they're opening a Dyson store just in the mall that's 5 minutes away from my house. They have a coming soon signage going up. There's going to be a Dyson store.
I don't know if you need a Dyson store. I don't think people need that.
No, but I think it's going to be fun as sort of as a showroom to try things. Yeah. We also got, and this is totally a tangent here, but we got a Mi store. So there would be a Xiaomi store here in Rome. And, I spent 10 minutes just browsing around. And of course, the smartphones are totally copycats of iPhones and other Android devices. But the smart home stuff is really impressive, and it's quite cheap.
I'm pretty sure you told this exact story last week.
It's possible. It's very possible. But I went again. I went in again, and I spent more time in the store.
I have a new story. I went back.
I went back because I told Sylvia, look, I got to go back and spend more time looking at, toothbrushes and towels. And they have a lot of options. And I was keeping an eye on the sensor.
Do they have any of the phones with like the pop-out cameras and stuff in there?
Yeah, I think so, but I didn't play. Out of principle, I didn't play around with the phones. Because I don't, because I think they're too similar to other phones. But the smart home stuff is really impressive. So I went back and spent more time into the Xiaomi store. And it's last week it was sort of a teaser because I only spent 2 minutes. This time I actually spent a lot of time, but
I want you to go back there again and play with the phones.
Okay,
because
I'll probably go back a third time.
They have some crazy technology in their phones, right? They have like the pop-out cameras and stuff like that, and the in-screen fingerprint readers and all that nonsense. And they also, if you ever heard of the Poco phone?
I think I have. Yes.
Yeah, they make it too. Xiaomi make the Poco phone too. And that's like this phone that is like, it's super cheap, but super high spec, and like everyone loves it.
What I did though, I have a confession. I went to the Xiaomi store and I checked out Xiaomi make these, they have a separate smart home accessory line called Akara. And those Akara sensors, so they have like a home hub. They have window and door contact sensors. They have motion sensors. They only had a full like sort of a starter kit at the store, and it was quite expensive. So what I did, I ended up buying the same devices for cheaper on Amazon. So I'm sorry, Xiaomi store, but I only used you to actually check out the products in real life, but then I used Amazon.
Were they cheaper on Amazon?
They were.
Okay.
Yeah, they were cheaper.
Wow, the Aqara website is not even a little bit in English.
You can use the app in English, but it's
there we go. I
English.
found the English version, I think.
Yeah, I've been looking it up via. It's not even Homebridge actually. The Aqara hub supports a HomeKit natively. It's one of the only security systems that shows up as an actual security system in the Home app. I think only 3 of them exist, maybe. Another one is the Honeywell Lyric controller, which is an actual alarm system that you gotta get installed by a technician.
The door and window sensor? Is that what you're talking about?
That one and the hub, the Aqara hub, which serves as a security system. Hub. It's the screenshot that I sent you yesterday in my message showing the siren in HomeKit. Yeah, that's
so you can connect other smart devices to this one.
So you can. It's fun because the hub shows up in HomeKit, but for the hub to be triggered, it's got to be associated with sensors. So motion sensors or contact sensors. I got a contact one, and those sensors are not HomeKit compatible. They use Zigbee as a protocol.
Yep.
But it doesn't matter because you set it up in the Aqara app, and then in HomeKit you only see the hub. And
that is a smart way to build a system.
So HomeKit only gets the hub, but it doesn't matter because all you need to care about is whether the system gets triggered. And the connections you can manage from the Aqara app. HomeKit only needs to know, do you have a security system? Is it armed? Is it disarmed?
But then what can you do in the Home app, though?
Well, you can arm and disarm your security system.
Right.
And you can use it for automation. So you can do things like when my security system arms or disarms, or, which is, I guess, the trigger that most people will use, when my security system is triggered, do something. And you can connect any kind of accessories you want, or you can run a shortcut, which is another thing that we can talk about. But yeah, this is...
Wait, so when you're... So somebody breaks into your home.
I don't want to get into the details. I don't want to give... I know.
I don't need the details. Don't need the details. But I just want to get just from a basic perspective. When somebody breaks into your home, it triggers a shortcut?
Oh, it triggers a bunch of things.
Of course. No, but I just want to know if it triggers a shortcut, because that's the most Federico thing. I love that.
Is that it's gonna... you're gonna... if you try and break into now, I set up a whole system myself, entirely based on HomeKit, including backup options for power. 2 things. 1, your eardrums are gonna get destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
And 2, I am gonna get multiple levels of notifications based on shortcuts that my HomeKit hubs are running, because that's a feature in iOS, iPadOS, tvOS 13, and macOS Catalina. Multiple levels of notifications, including pushover and including Twilio, which sends me SMS, text messages. So my HomeKit accessories are triggering a native HomeKit automation that runs a shortcut. I actually tweeted about this yesterday. And I on my phone, so multiple things will happen to scare off people who try to break into my apartment, and multiple people will be contacted, and I will get multiple notifications. Yeah,
that's crazy. The shortcuts thing is already built into Catalina. That was quite a good find from you.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about it on App Stories on Monday, I think. and there's a lot more details in that episode. But basically, the home app, and not necessarily the home app, HomeKit hubs have a separate instance of shortcuts built in, which means that an automation that you set up in the home app, it can access a subset of shortcuts actions and run those actions independently from the shortcuts app. It's got the same editor.
This looks janky as hell, though.
It's kind of difficult to wrap your head around, but I think once you get it, it sort of clicks.
Yeah.
It's like you can set up automations in home, right? That's always been possible. Previously, you could only have accessories as actions, like if my motion sensor triggers, turn on the lights, right? And the lights was the action. Now, an action can be a shortcut. And to put together the shortcut, you have the shortcuts editor into the home app. But because it's a separate instance, you don't have access to all the actions from the shortcuts app. And why is that? Because let's say that you're not at home and your HomeKit, your home is managed by the Apple TV that is used as a HomeKit hub. Now your door opens and an automation is supposed to run because you're not at home. If you had a shortcut that had, I don't know, choose from list as an action, how would that work?
Yeah,
right?
Okay.
So that's why HomeKit only has access to a subset of actions. But in those actions, you can make web requests. You can talk to web APIs. And that's what I've been doing to send me custom notifications. So when something happens, accessories are controlled, which was an existing feature, but also shortcuts runs code effectively, sending me notifications and contacting people, sending text messages around to make sure that I'm on the case.
I wanted to ask you something real quick. In iOS 13, can you add shortcut enabled stuff into a scene, or is it just an automation?
Interesting question. Let me double check. I don't think it's possible yet. I don't think it's possible in a scene.
Because I would want to because I have like a bedtime scene that just changes some of the lights, and I would like to just add something in there, but
I don't think it's possible with the scene. But at this point, you should just make a shortcut, right?
Yeah, I probably will. That's probably what I'm going to do because it's easy enough to just change that, and I could do that now on 12.
Especially because in shortcuts in iOS 13, you can actually control HomeKit from shortcuts. So it's also true the other way around. So you have shortcuts inside of Home, but you also have Home inside of shortcuts. So if you use the control my own action to control accessories, to change, like you can change the color of a light inside of shortcuts.
What I want to do is I can already do in shortcuts, which is turn one on, turn one off, right? Like that's a thing that I can already do. Or I could just use a shortcut to enable the existing scene and just give it a new name. And because what I want to do is then also turn on the fan, but which I can now do. But anyway, that's cool. All right, well, that was unexpected. Smart home devices, everybody. It's a wild and wonderful time. Today's show is brought to you by Squarespace. Make your next move with Squarespace. They will let you create a website for your next idea or project. They give you all of the tools that you need to put your next work online. You can get a unique domain name so you can give your website the branding that it deserves. And you can take advantage of award-winning templates that are beautifully designed, allowing you to show off your great ideas. You can even add an online store to your Squarespace site. If you want to sell physical or digital goods, Squarespace has all of the tools that you need. No matter what type of website you want to make, whether it's for an event, maybe you want to set up a blog or a portfolio. Maybe you want to set up a website to show off the music from your band. It doesn't matter what type of website you want to make because Squarespace has everything. There is nothing to install or patch or upgrade. They take care of all of that stuff so you don't have to. They are the all-in-one platform for putting your work online. You can go and try it out for yourself right now at squarespace.com/connected, and you get a free trial where you can go in and you can build your entire site. And then when you're ready to launch it to the world, their plans start at just $12 a month. Every Squarespace customer benefits from 24/7 customer support as well. So if you need any help at all, they're always there when you need them. When you decide to sign up for a Squarespace plan, go again to squarespace.com/connected and use the offer code connected, and you will get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain and show your support for this show. That is squarespace.com/connected and the code connected for 10% off your first purchase. Our thanks to Squarespace for their continued support of this show and all of Relay FM. Squarespace, make your next move, make your next website. I watched an MKBHD video a couple of days ago, as I want to watch all of them. Continues to be one of my very favorite creators. Just an absolute powerhouse. Every single video is entertaining. I don't know how he does it, but he does. And he did a video about the Royale FlexPi. It's like the only shipping foldable phone. It was like the first one that anybody saw at like CES or Mobile World Congress or something, when all of the phones started, like the foldable phones started popping out. I think it was a Mobile World Congress. But you can now, it's possible to get one. Like it's not easy. I think you have to import it probably from China or Japan. I'm not sure where. But it's possible to get one. And he made a comment which I just wanted to touch on because it's something that I have felt for a long time, and I was pleased to see Marquez say it too. Screen on the outside is not the way to go, and that's what the Royal FlexPi is. And everybody was really excited about the Huawei Mate X, right? Because they were like, "Oh, that's what you want, like the maximum screen, and it folds on the outside." This is called Mountain Fold in origami, by the way. There's somebody wrote into me ages ago to suggest this, which is good as a way to try and describe where the screen goes. So mountain fold. If you imagine a mountain, right? So you've got like a peak. The screen is on the face is on the outside of a mountain, right? And if you just think of a valley, so it goes down, that's when it closes up, right? So a mountain, you close it one way, a valley, you close it the other way. So a valley fold is like a book, right? So like you close a book, right? And the contents.
Well, this is too many metaphors. What's a valley? What's a book?
Okay, well, it's called Valley Fold and Mountain Fold. They are the names of two types of fold.
Why are we using nicknames? Just say screen on the outside or screen on the inside.
It's not a nickname. This is another type of particular name of folding in origami. That's what I'm telling you.
What's origami?
Do you not know what origami?
I know what origami is, and I don't know what origami is in the context of phones.
Okay, so
just keep saying screen on the outside and screen on the inside.
No. Because technically, the Samsung Galaxy Fold has a screen on the outside.
Yeah. And it's not what you want?
But the screen's on the inside. You see, this is what I'm saying. They have two screens. They have one on the outside and one on the inside. But the foldable screen's on the inside. It is a Valley Fold.
Why is it a Valley Fold?
Right. So in origami, right? Forget it. The screen on the outside.
Thank you.
And so, but this is something that I've been assuming for a while, and basically, Marquez says, as expected, it gets in the way more. It's more susceptible to damage if you have the screen on the outside. You touch things accidentally, and it has more creases. It has, like, this Royal FlexPi has two creases, because it has to fold twice, not once, like, around itself. So, because if you imagine, right, if you're folding in, it has one crease right in the middle. But if you're folding on the outside, you're gonna have like two hinges that it has to go around, because none of these phones can fold completely flat. So you have to, like, if you imagine like the spine of a book, right? There's two folds on the spine of a book in most instances, like in like a thick book, right? You've had like a big hardcover book, and you imagine like the cover that goes around the outside of it. It has like two different folds in it, and it's got a flat piece down the middle. So it's like wings or whatever, you know? So just something to know. I just thought that it was an interesting point. I was pleased to see that Marquez has got a device, has now been able to compare, right, the two different types of phone. And of course, Huawei's phone could be better if it ever ships, but it's still going to suffer from at least the idea of that it's more susceptible for that screen getting damaged when all of those screens are plastic. Right, so they're not glass, because glass doesn't bend like that.
It turns out.
Apple is apparently in advanced talks with Intel to purchase their modem chip division. This was reported in a couple of outlets yesterday, but I got a report from the Wall Street Journal. So this part of Intel's division that is being sold off would cover a selection of patents and staff members, and is currently valued at about $1 billion. It's expected that if a deal is to be done, it will be announced next week. So some of the interesting context for this is it's worth remembering Apple was supposedly in talks with Intel to supply their modem chips for 5G and beyond, right? Especially when Apple was having all of the issues that they were having with Qualcomm when they were in court together. And then you may remember the shocking settlement, right? Like while they were in court, one day everybody just decided to settle. And Apple and Qualcomm settled their lawsuit. Apple paid them a bunch of money and entered into a multi-year agreement for the supply of their modem chips and for some patent cross-licensing. It was questioned at the time, why is this all happening? Like, you felt like you could read the tea leaves and see that it was either Apple decided that Intel wasn't good enough, or Intel decided that they just couldn't be bothered to do it anymore, because Intel immediately said that they were shuttering this part of their business. So it was like a chicken and egg, right? Like which was first? Did Intel decide they didn't want to do it, or did Apple decide they were going with Qualcomm? And it wasn't really known, and I don't think we'll ever know. But you are in a point now where it seems like Apple will be picking up the scraps and buying this from Intel, which makes perfect sense when you think about it, because ultimately Apple does not want to be in this arrangement with Qualcomm, but they're stuck because the patents for these chips are owned by Intel and Qualcomm, so they can't really do anything about it. And Apple have done this before, right? Like they bought, was it Taiwan Semiconductor, got a bunch of stuff there, and then they did a deal with ARM, and then they were good to go. And so now it may be a case of they can pick up a bunch of technology, a bunch of patents from Intel. They now have that deal with Qualcomm, and then within a few years' time, they can start making their own chips. But with Intel, they also have the leg up of these are a bunch of people that have been doing this stuff for a while.
And it wouldn't surprise me, because Apple is the kind of company that likes to control the components, and especially the important ones like the system on a chip, and in this case the modem.
Especially when modems are becoming increasingly more important again with 5G, right?
Exactly. And they're not the kind of company that likes to depend on other companies for these critical components. And so it would be in complete Apple style to say 4-5 years, we're actually making our own modems for 5G.
Yeah, and I think this was even after all this Qualcomm stuff, right? And I think especially after the Qualcomm stuff, everybody was just like assuming like, oh, they're going to make their own at some point. But isn't it even easier when you buy Intel's modem division to then go about making your own 5G chips? So
yeah, and we're probably going to get a 5G iPhone in 2020, according to rumors. You guys in the UK already have 5G turned on, right?
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
we do as well in Italy in select cities. I think Rome is part of the initial rollout. And I have some friends who are buying or are considering at least these 5G Android phones. I don't think those are gonna go super well. I remember the first 4G Android phones, and how the battery would last like 3 hours at most, and they will get super hot. And I think the same is gonna happen with 5G. So I don't know, 5G iPhone in 2020, probably. Still feels a little too early for me, but I don't know.
John Voorhees provided follow-up. It was PA Semiconductor that they bought, not Taiwan Semiconductor. Right. I think 2020 is fine, because all of Apple's main competitors have 5G phones shipping this year. So I think 2020 is fine for that. I think that 5G is something that Apple can put in even just one phone, right? They can just, like a lot of other companies are doing. It would not surprise me. I think that this is just one of those technologies that they need to jump on sooner rather than later. Like it's because people are going to be very excited about this. And also, it could also lend into their plans, right? Like, there's a lot of stuff about 5G, which is not just as simple as faster download speeds. There's like a lot of stuff around like latency and things like that, and how important that can be for AI stuff and self-driving and AR and all that kind of stuff. And if that's Apple's plans over the next couple of years, trying to get this stuff out in their phones and shipping sooner rather than later will be of a benefit to them. There was a Kickstarter campaign launched in the last couple of days that lots of people have been sending to us for good reason. It's called the Magic Dock, and it is a kind of pro-focused iPad dock. It is a Surface Studio style hinge, so it has a base and one of those arms that can kind of be articulated all the way down, and you can kind of move the iPad around to face you in different orientations. You can do it in portrait and landscape. It has some built-in I/O, so you can plug into the USB. You plug it into the USB-C port, and you get a headphone jack, a USB-C, regular USB, and HDMI port in the back of it. What do you think?
Well, in terms of the product itself, there's a lot of details that I would like to confirm. So let me say, first of all, that I am intrigued by this product. I think it's, I love the Surface Studio for, sort of to use as a drafting table type of device. I love that idea. I'm not so sure about whether a 12.9-inch iPad Pro would have the same effect of a Surface Studio. And in thinking about my usage of the iPad Pro and how I look at the screen, I know that I would have a keyboard in front of this device if I were to type, an article. But then judging from the photos, it doesn't feel like it's tall enough to avoid neck strain. And it feels like, it wouldn't keep the iPad at an elevation that would allow me to not look down. And so not to keep my neck down. And that if I do that for a couple of hours, I'm going to feel it in my shoulders. I'm going to feel it in my neck. It's not good for me. And I think you have the same problem, Myke.
Yeah, that's why I have found the one true stand for the iPad, which is the clear look stand.
Yeah,
which is taller. Is bonkers how high it gets. So I can have my iPad eye height now while at a desk.
That's what you want, exactly. So in terms of the angle and the height, I'm not sure about it. I like the idea of the base integrates with the iPad. It doesn't require you to open a hinge. You just place it, connect it via USB-C. There's a connector on the side that communicates with the actual hub, which is in the foot of the stand. So it's a clever design. I'm just concerned about the height. I would like to know, however, more details and numbers about the types of connections being used. I looked on the Kickstarter campaign page, couldn't find any details on
we both
power
spent
delivery.
some time looking through all of it and couldn't find anything that kind of said that stuff, which you are a big fan of, these high-speed specs.
I liked, sure, especially now that I'm using the iPad Pro, for example, to record podcasts, and later when I want to transfer a file, the faster it is, the happier I am. So I would like to know power delivery. I would like to know, and I am assuming because they mentioned USB 3.0.
Is that super speed?
It's not super speed. It's the old spec, and that's going to be 5 gigabit per second at best. But I also, I'm keeping an eye on this Sony hub. It sounds like the ultimate USB-C hub. It's going to do 4K at 60. It's going to do USB 3.1 Gen 2 speeds. So that's 10 gigabit per second. It's the kind of hub that nobody has made yet. And it sounds like the accessory of my dreams. And it's also going to support the ultra high speed 2 SD cards, which are super fast. No existing USB-C hub as all the specs that Sony promised.
Jack, should I read those specs? I've got it here.
Yes, please. Please.
It's a HDMI port for video with 4K support at 30 frames per second. USB-C power delivery port for power up to 100 watts. USB-C and USB-A port for external devices, both rated at 3.1 Gen 2. Sony says that the specification makes its hub the fastest on the market with transfer speeds of up to 1,000 megabytes a second, at least for the USB-C, and it has SD card and micro SD card too. That's coming from The Verge.
Yeah. So 4K at 30, not 4K at 60, but otherwise it's got power delivery and it's got USB-C 3.1 Gen 2 and the faster SD cards, which is exactly what I want. And I kind of love, it's got the classic Sony design.
It's very Sony.
It's as the owner of a Sony Walkman in 2019, I sure appreciate that kind of classic Sony design. So this Magic Dock, I like the idea, not sure about specs, not sure about the height, not sure about the fact that it's a Kickstarter campaign from seems like a new company that has never done a Kickstarter before. So, you know what's going to happen. The release date is going to slip by several months because it always happens. It's almost statistically impossible for a Kickstarter for hardware from a new company to meet its promised deadline.
Yeah, they're saying October, which, again, like, we don't know anything about this company or the individual whose name's Steve Warren, who is working on this project, and they may know exactly what they're doing. But you know, I have very close relationships with lots of people that do this stuff all the time, right? Like, I have a podcast that I do with Studio Neat, and if anything Studio Neat knows, it's how to make products, and or the Pen Addict with Brad, right? Like, these are people that they know how to make the products that they make, and they struggle to meet their deadlines constantly because things happen. I now know this in trying to manufacture things myself, right? Like, even just paper goods. Yep. It's like, oh, but it got stuck in customs for 3 weeks, so
yeah.
I just, I hope that this person can fulfill by October, but October seems really close for a product like this.
Especially because it's not just a stand, it's a stand with I/O. So you got chips, you got different kinds of components to manufacture. It's electronics. It's not just a piece of metal that can rotate. It's a piece of metal that can rotate. It's got magnets, and it's got USB-C connections, and it's got a processor built in to handle these kinds of connections. So October is really close. It's like 2 months away, essentially. So I don't know.
By the time this thing finishes, yes, it will be 2 months away.
Yeah, and the something that just mentioned in the live chat, the low goal of the campaign is always I'm always a little skeptical when I see, why do you only need $10,000? So I don't know. This company may know exactly what they're doing, but of course, Kickstarter, be mindful of the projects that you back and the promises that you believe. So, and this is true for all kinds of Kickstarter campaigns. Nothing against the Magic Dock. It's just something to keep in mind.
Yep.
But overall, high level, the idea is intriguing. I just would like to play with it first.
All right, today's episode is also brought to you by Pingdom. It is the summertime, but before you pack your bags and set your email to out of office, you want to make sure that you have something in place to tell you that everything is running smoothly on your website, and more importantly, when it is not. So you need Pingdom, because they will let you know the moment that your site goes down in whatever way is best for you. You can customize how you're alerted and who is alerted depending on the severity of an outage. So when you're out of office, you can actually stay out of the office. Take a vacation with peace of mind while Pingdom is monitoring your website. It's super easy to get started. All Pingdom needs is the URL, and they will take care of the rest. Go to pingdom.com/OOO right now for a 14-day trial, which is free, which is awesome. No credit card required. Then when you sign up, use the code CONNECTED at checkout to get a cool 30% off your first invoice. And for a limited time only, enter for to win a free out of office t-shirt by going to pingdom.com/OOO. Pingdom.com/ooh. I like that. Ooh. Pingdom.com/OOO. The shirt is really great. Go check it out. Our thanks to Pingdom from our friends over at SolarWinds and their support of this show and all of Relay FM. All the great product rumors. We've got 3 sets of product rumors coming from 9to5Mac. Can you tell me what our friend of the show, Guillermo Rambo, has discovered about the iPhone 11?
So the iPhone 11, it sounds like the main feature is going to be this ultra-wide lens. They're adding a third lens to the back of at least what's going to be called the iPhone 11. So what is now the 10S? Going to be 11, not the 11R, which is going to keep the dual lens configuration, but on the 11 we're going to have this third lens that will let you shoot ultra wide pictures and supposedly ultra wide videos. And in terms of software, because of course knowing Apple, there's going to be new features and new effects, or new modifications that you can apply to your photos. And one of these functionalities is going to be what Rambo mentions as Smart Frame, which is a feature that I think Mark Gurman originally mentioned, not with this exact name, many months ago, when he said that the upcoming iPhones in 2019 with the ultra wide lens, they were going to have features to let you put back certain, for example, people or details of a photo, to put them back after the fact.
Or that maybe you could like change some of the focal point, right? Like maybe you want to shift the image over a little bit, right? Like it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, so the idea that when you take a picture, that picture is not necessarily what you need to end up with. You can, thanks to the ultra wide, maybe you can recover details or subjects or people. Or,
like imagine you've taken a family photo and accidentally cut off Uncle Bob. You could bring Uncle Bob back into the image, like by stretching it out a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So it sounds very interesting to me, this feature. It's a
very Apple-y feature.
It's a very Apple feature. Yeah. And
in demo as well.
Yes, and Rambo also mentions that he suggests that Apple is likely gonna take the approach of this data that you can recover is only kept on device for a few days or for a limited period of time. And I sort of understand why. Like, if this is a feature that sort of lives in the background and is always enabled, you want to make sure that your device has the information that you manually captured. Like, if you're taking a picture and you're careful in framing the picture and you don't think about the fact that, there's actually a lens that is also capturing more things around the picture.
Maybe you're taking a picture and you're not fully dressed.
Exactly.
Right? You don't want that there forever
embedded in the photo, in the file. So I understand why Apple may say, we're going to let you recover portions of a picture that you didn't capture when you framed the original, but we're going to keep it on device for a few days. Now, my question would be, I assume that this data will not sync with iCloud. It will be encrypted on device. You can only recover it on your iPhone 11. And there's probably going to be some kind of counter, some kind of, when you swipe up, maybe you will see, the smart frame is available for 7 more days. Yeah. Something like that.
And like maybe with the option to clear it now.
Yeah, exactly.
Which would be nice.
So it's going to be interesting. A new feature that Rambo mentions in the iPhone 11, a new and improved Taptic engine. The Taptic engine is the component that allows your iPhone to play haptic feedback. It's been around since the days of 3D Touch.
Yep.
Rambo mentions that Apple is working on this Leap Haptics, is a code name for more advanced haptic feedback. I think this is going to go well with the new iOS API for developers. It's called Core Haptics. This is a new feature of iOS 13, which is already supported in the iPhone XS. It allows developers to write completely custom haptic feedback.
Right. So in iOS 13, when iOS 13 ships, this stuff can be in the current phones.
Yes.
This won't just be something for the new phones.
No. It will be in the current phones. I'm testing betas of apps that use custom haptic interactions.
What is that like?
That's like, so before, developers could choose from 3 types of haptic feedback. They were called selection, notification, and something else. And each version had like 3 layers for a total of 7 combinations. So before, developers could choose from 7 total combinations of haptic feedback on your phone. With Core Haptics, you can write whatever you want. And so, for example, right now I'm testing a calculator that has, it's not pCalc, it's another one. It has different layers of feedback depending whether you press the equal button or the plus button, for example.
Love
and
that.
you can feel it,
So
especially
you would get, if you were using it enough, you would get used to it to the point where you're like, oh, that wasn't the right button.
yes.
I like
But
that a lot.
yes, it's gonna be really nice. But I mentioned this because right now, this is supported in the iPhone XS, but right now, due to how the Taptic engine is designed and placed inside the XS, you can feel with your hand the feedback mostly toward the sides of the device and the back of the device. I wouldn't be surprised if this new Taptic engine lets you feel stuff right under the display, even more prominently than before.
Right. Well, that would make perfect sense, though, wouldn't it? Because, like, really, the Taptic engine is 50% of 3D touch, right? Like, the other part is the layer in the screen. But now, if they're removing the layer in the screen, the Taptic engine has to do more of the work, right? Like, to provide this feeling, which I guess is more like what is in, like, a trackpad, right? Than, you know. So.
Yeah, and I could see Apple saying we have this new Taptic engine, and we also have new developer tools that allows games or apps to have, like different levels of sharpness, different levels of intensity for this sort of true to life haptic feedback. I could totally see that. And it's supported on the XS, but it's even better on the 11. So, no USB-C. I'm kind of sad about this.
Yeah, but
honestly.
who was expecting it in this one?
Oh.
Really? Were you?
No, I was not, but I'm still sad. I would love to have a USB-C iPhone.
I think it's gonna happen, but I think we're years away still, though.
Probably. No promotion display, so no 120 hertz refresh rate, which we have this on the iPad. It looks glorious. I would love to have it on the phone.
More and more phones are getting it, so they're gonna have to do it at some point, I think.
They're gonna have to do it. Android phones are getting these. This is really awesome for games. And again, I'm so used to it on the iPad Pro. I would love to have it on the phone. But we're going to get, and I guess a few people are going to be happy about this, slow-mo support for the front-facing cameras. So you're going to be able to do slow motion selfies.
I don't care about that. I just want a better selfie camera.
Yeah, me too. So if this
I
means
hope that's
better
what it
selfie
means.
camera,
Yeah.
sure, give me slow-mo as well.
You would
Why
assume
not?
it probably does, though, right? Because like otherwise the slow-mo video is going to look terrible. Because like slow-mo video doesn't look that great on the iPhone, right? For like a bunch of reasons, right? Like it's dark, it's not as high resolution, right? So and that's with like the excellent camera on the back. They have to do at least something.
With the current. Yeah.
Oh my god, you wouldn't see anything. Yeah. I hope that means that we're going to get some improvements to the selfie camera as well, because that's a much needed thing.
Yeah, but otherwise, we're gonna get the huge camera bump.
Let me ask you, because
okay.
I feel like I have been seeing people on Twitter for the last couple of weeks say, "Oh, this is an easy one to skip," etc., etc. What do you think about this?
I mean, I'm not gonna skip it.
No, but like, are you going to be mad about it? I'm not asking if you're going to skip it, but like, what do you, when you read this, how do you feel about it?
When I read, if it's just this, like a third camera and Taptic engine, it's new, like, it's not that exciting.
The third camera is enough for me to buy it.
Really?
Yeah, because I use the second camera all the time. So having another camera is great. Like, I want the ultra wide, like I've been talking about. I really want an ultra wide camera. I want that because it's like, this is a feature that I see on other phones and I think it looks really cool. I would like it on my iPhone. I want an ultra wide lens. So like that is like, for me, that's enough. I use my camera quite a lot, and I like to use my phone as a camera. Like, it's the only camera that I want, and I want it to be the best camera that it can be. And I would like to have an ultra wide lens so I can take some different types of photos.
I guess I'm still a bit disappointed by the XS camera. That prevents me from getting too excited about camera changes in the 11.
I love the XS camera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that is just where me and we differ. But and Taptic engine, fine, that sounds great. It will be faster, right? Like, go for it. And then I don't know what it will be outside of that, but I don't think I was expecting anything more than this, though, right? Like, I know it's like another model, but it seems like that the better one of the two is going to be the second one, right? Because it's when they're going to change some size stuff, so like the 11S or whatever. But I feel like everyone's forgotten what happened when the iPhone 6 came out. Like, did you all forget that we went 6, 6S, 7? Did we get 7S or did it go to 8?
Well, we got to 8.
Right, but like there was multiple years where there wasn't really a lot going on, right? Like that. I think people remember the glory days of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Like every single solid number is a massive leap. But no, we've had more time with iteration in the iPhone line than we have revolution, like at this point. Like, it was many, many years where they made very small changes to the phone. They would add, like, a feature and speed bumps, a feature and speed bumps. And that was just how it was for a while.
Do you feel Apple can wait until 2021 for a completely new design?
I don't even think it'll be a completely new design in 2020 or 2021. I think we've got this for a while. I would like to see it. Maybe we get it in 2021. But if in 2020 we're going to have different sizes, if they don't change the design then, I can't imagine them doing it the year after.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It behooves them to keep the design the same for a long time, right? Like, it from a product design perspective, must be much, much more easier for them. Especially, but I say especially if people keep buying them. The problem is people aren't buying them as much. And that might be a reason that they are. I feel like if the 11S is the one where it's different sizes, that was a plan brought forward. Right? Because that just seems so strange. So we'll see. Because they clearly have changed course in some areas, and that could be one of them. Do I think 2021? Maybe. I would love it. It'd be great to have a new design, but I don't even really know what they would do unless they're gonna, unless they do actually do something to get rid of Face ID. Like, I can't imagine a new design for a long time.
Yeah, I just feel like, the notch and those rounded edges, they're starting to feel a little old, especially when you look at other Android phones. It was fine with the iPhone 10, but I feel like the competition has caught up very quickly to that phone, more quickly than I was expecting. And sure, Face ID is more advanced than other systems, but if you're an average consumer, you don't care about the millions of scans going on per second. You just look at the phone that's, cooler looking and possibly cheaper. So I don't know. It feels like thinking about, do I want to keep the iPhone 10 design for another 2 years? And meanwhile, Android phone makers are making these truly edge-to-edge displays with cameras embedded underneath the display and maybe even fingerprint sensors. That's super cool. And instead, I got the notch. So, I don't know.
There's some more rumors about the 16-inch MacBook Pro still coming in October, apparently. There's been a lot of question about this from different rumors, and then Apple revamping some laptops just a couple of weeks ago. And apparently, according to this new rumor coming from Economic Daily News via 9to5Mac, it's going to ship alongside updates to the 13-inch MacBook Pro and the MacBook Air in October, even though we got an update in July. It's surprising, but if one of the big things about that new MacBook Pro is a new keyboard design, Apple would, I'm sure, be very motivated to get that across the entire line as quickly as possible. A couple of other details. It's a 3072 by 1920 LCD display, which is bigger, and there's like higher pixels. And apparently, this is the thing that is the kind of the newest piece of information. Apparently, starting at $3,000, making it a very pro model indeed, which makes complete sense to me. Though starting at $3,000. The reason I say it makes sense to me is I think that this design doesn't replace the 15, right? Like, it sits at the very top, and it's super expensive because it's going to be super different and super weird and super wonderful. And Apple is apparently going to position it as like kind of like in between the iMac and the iMac Pro as like a thing, right? Like, it's actually going to probably be a very much true pro laptop for a while, right? Like in the way that the iMac Pro is expensive, the Mac Pro is expensive, the MacBook Pro is about to become very expensive.
I would love to have a 16-inch iPad Pro. I'll tell you that.
Me too.
But I'm curious to see if it actually replaces the 15-inch MacBook Pro, or if Apple uses the 13-inch as the baseline, and then it goes up to 16 inches, removing the 15-inch from the lineup, so that they can make more money.
I've always thought that they would keep the 15, but the lack of rumors about an update to the 15 while people are talking about updates to the 13, right, at the same time, makes me pause for thought on that one. But it would seem peculiar to me for them to only offer this really expensive one at 15. But I guess we'll wait and see. What does it start at now? Let me find out. I don't even know what the MacBook Pro starts at now on the 15. Because I never even think about a 15. 15 just feels like way too much laptop for me. It starts at $2,400.
Okay.
So but you'd be adding $600 to the starting price.
Quite the jump, even for Apple standards.
Yeah, it may be that they just leave it there. They don't put the new keyboard in it, but you can still get the old one, and they keep it for a while, but they also have a 16. That might be what they do.
Mm-hmm. Sounds possible.
And also, there's a small rumor that micro LED may come to the Apple Watch in 2020. Micro LED screens basically would mean that they could have smaller components. They would have longer battery life, less burn-in. Apple's apparently been trying to work on micro LED for a while, and in the same way that the first OLED screen was an Apple Watch, right? The first micro LED screen would be an Apple Watch. The Apple Watch is the perfect kind of product for screen technology, I think, for them.
Yes.
Smaller yield that they need. They sell less of them than do an iPhone. Allows them to kind of, I guess, get their feet wet with a new technology.
Yeah, it sounds exactly like what they should do. Start testing the new technology on the watch, later bring it to the phone. The iPads are probably never gonna get an OLED display at this point.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought of that.
I wonder if the micro LED could, because of the reduced battery consumption and the burn-in effect, is the key to finally get an always-on watch face. I wonder if this is the plan.
Oh, yeah, maybe that's it. OLED could do it, but I understand why they might wait if this technology is better for it.
Yeah. So it could be a pretty nice feature for a future watch.
Maybe that's the selling point of the 2020
the selling
watch.
Point.
Yeah. Good call.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
All right, today's show is brought to you by Text Expander from our friends over at Smile. You can give your productivity a boost with Text Expander, turning the things that you type often into snippets that you can type everywhere, and you can expand huge blocks of text. You can expand snippets that you can fill in with fresh information. You can even put images in there if you want to. Companies use Text Expander for Teams to allow them to quickly and easily deal with customer support, to type out reports, or even to be sending email. You can have, like, if you're sending out, I don't know, like sales pitches and stuff like that, you can have the best writers in your company write out the pitch that you want, and you can share it with the entire team. So you can have consistency and accuracy amongst your communication. We use Text Expander for Teams here at Relay FM for these exact reasons. There's a bunch of us now, and we're talking to companies quite frequently, and sometimes we need to deliver consistency of information, like in a very specific way. Because me and Stephen are very specific people, so we like things communicated in specific ways. So it allows us to do that. So whoever's responsible for a certain part of the business can write out a snippet and share it with everybody. And then when we're communicating with companies or communicating with people like our members, right, when they have questions, we have consistency. It's super awesome. If you're always looking, like me, for ways to be a little bit more productive, you should be trying out Text Expander. Even if you don't want the team stuff, it's super simple and super easy to use to handle all of your repetitive typing tasks, leaving you more time to do what you do best. Go to textexpander.com/podcast and you can learn more about Text Expander right now. That is textexpander.com/podcast. Our thanks to Text Expander from Smile for their support of this show and all of Relay FM. Do you want to tell me about your TV that you just bought?
Yeah, because I hate capitalism, I took advantage of Prime Day.
That's why I bought my Echo Show at Prime Day.
Mm-hmm. I've seen, and I don't mean to get political, but I've seen folks say, boycott Prime Day and don't give your money to Amazon. But if you know me, you know that one of the ways that I like to live my life is to pick my battles. And this is one of the fights that I'm going to leave to other.
Jeff looks like
Myke,
he could throw down.
Jeff would absolutely destroy me in a fight.
He would. He really
absolutely
would. He really would. He's savage too. Do you remember that like when he hired that whole thing? Oh man.
This is savage. He can write a very upset letter.
Mm-hmm.
He's also very muscular, and I bet that he has an army of killers, both humans and robots, at his disposal. So
interesting.
But in this case, I understand why some folks wanted to do an Amazon boycott, for Prime Day. Look, I just needed a new television, right?
Yeah, really, I mean, again, I'm not saying one way or the other, but if you're going to boycott them every day, right? Like if Prime Day is not any more or less worse than how the company is on an average day, right?
We wouldn't want to spend a lot of money, and we saved I looked on we ended up buying a Samsung television for reasons that I will explain shortly, but I looked on the Samsung website, I looked on other Italian retailers websites, and it was at least 250 euros more than the Prime Day price tag. So why not? We needed a new television for our small kitchen / living room space. Myke, you've been here, it's very small, and we wanted to try and make more room, so we also bought a new sofa. We did a bunch of rethinking around that area, and we wanted to have a bigger television on the balcony outside. So the plan was we're gonna take our current TV from the living room, bring it outside, get rid of the TV outside, and buy a new TV for the kitchen. I knew that we wanted to get something in 4K, but around the 40 to 43 inch size, which is not easy to find because 4K TVs, arguably make sense once you go beyond 50 inches. But there are companies making 43 inches TV sets with 4K support. I also knew that if possible, I wanted to get a TV with native AirPlay 2 and HomeKit support. Now, I started doing research around this, and I only had a few hours because we decided on Prime Day, which actually lasted 2 days. So it was like Prime Days, not just 24 hours.
Black Friday is a whole
hours.
Week now, though. So
yeah, exactly. So I had just a day to decide. And so I started doing research, and it was horrible. It was a terrible process of understanding which models actually of televisions from which companies actually have AirPlay 2 or HomeKit, which model numbers, because they change from the US to the EU, and also whether the software update for AirPlay 2 and HomeKit is actually already available, or if it's just been promised by the manufacturer.
Because it's just starting to roll out on a bunch of TVs now, right?
Yeah, exactly. So my research, the results were that HomeKit support is extremely rare to find. I think actually tomorrow LG is going to be the first company to release a software update that adds HomeKit and AirPlay 2 together. In browsing and reading articles, all I could find was that some TVs already had AirPlay 2, but no HomeKit. So started doing more research, filtering through the comments on Amazon and the reviews on Amazon, and we ended up finding this Samsung TV. It's the RU7400. It's a 43-inch 4K TV that has native AirPlay 2 support. It's also printed on the box of the TV. So there's works with Apple AirPlay 2, Apple AirPlay, I think. It's got an official badge. We got that one, and I set it up. And it worked right away, and I was actually quite impressed. It works in a couple of ways. So this is one of the TVs that has the built-in TV app from Apple on this, loaded into Tizen. I think is the operating system for this one. Yeah, it's Tizen. So it's got a TV app for the TV software. No need to actually buy an Apple TV device and plug it into this television. And it works perfectly well. It's, you're using the remote of the Samsung TV, which I actually prefer to the Apple TV remote. You log into your Apple ID. Apple actually has an authorized web page that lets you do this from Safari. So you don't need to type in. You don't need to type in your password. It's very nice.
I was just a bit like, oh, no, and I'm not one of these types of people that gets crazy about this stuff, but I don't really want to type in my Apple ID password into anything other than an Apple device.
I was surprised by the existence. I think it's authorize.apple.com or something like that. So that was super easy. And once I was logged in, it picked up my episodes of The Office and Chernobyl that I had in my Watch Now queue. And it looks like the same app on the Apple TV device, but it runs on my Samsung TV, and it's totally acceptable and totally fine. Of course, there are differences in terms of, this is not an OLED TV and doesn't have Dolby Atmos. It's got whatever Samsung calls HDR. So I
think it's UHD, right?
No, I think it's HDR10 maybe, or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I can tell the difference between this television and the good one that we have in the bedroom. The LG TV with OLED and Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision.
I'm sure
Dolby
that
Atmos is for audio.
Their more expensive TVs have different grading.
Yeah, and visually you can absolutely tell the difference, but it's fine. We just need a TV, here in the kitchen/living room to watch the news or a TV show in Italian, something super easy. So that was fine. But otherwise, the TV app is totally okay. No comments there. Actually, I appreciate the inclusion, so I don't need to buy an extra Apple TV 4K. AirPlay 2 also works in Control Center. So now I can stream anything that I want to my TV, whether it's music or video or a podcast. I just need, there's a new device in Control Center. It says Kitchen TV, and it's got the icon of a TV.
Nice.
And it just works. You connect to it. You pair initially once. You need to type in a PIN code, and that's it. Then you can connect to it like an Apple TV, and it just works. I, of course, me, I looked up immediately before buying the TV, whether it was going to be possible to hook it up to Homebridge to use it as a HomeKit device in addition to AirPlay. And of course, I found the excellent Samsung Tizen package for Homebridge. So now, in addition to running my LG TV from 2017 via Homebridge, I also run this Samsung TV via Homebridge. Setup was relatively...
I'm going to give you some follow-up from the chat room. So Samsung use HDR10 but doesn't have Dolby Vision. Atmos is the sound format.
Yeah. Atmos is the sound, doesn't have Dolby Vision. It's called HDR10 Plus. Okay. Yeah, thank you. So I configured the TV via Homebridge. I set up a few channels, and I actually need to issue a complaint here, Mike. I haven't seen enough people get upset about this, except for Reddit. But then again, people on Reddit are always upset, so they really don't count. Have you opened, Michael, the Home app in iOS 13?
No.
Okay, so in iOS 13, I'm trying to find a way to describe this on a podcast that makes sense. Let's say that you have a temperature sensor, right? That works with HomeKit.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, those sensors, they let you know about the temperature and, humidity, right? They have 2 data points. In iOS 12 and before, it used to be that in the Home app, you would get both data points as 2 separate tiles in the Home app.
Right.
One would say 25 degrees, the other would say 60% humidity. In iOS 13, data points for the same accessory are grouped together, and you cannot see both data points unless you long press on the tile and open a pop-up window.
I can see why this has happened, because it's like, well, it's
Yes.
only one device.
Yes, I understand that. I
But
understand it's only one device.
There maybe needs to be a way to show multiple
There-
pieces of information in one tile.
Or just give me an option
Yes.
to ungroup them, because it's a slippery slope. For example, I have a device that is both an alarm system, it's a native HomeKit security system, and a light. Like the same device is a light and a security system. Now in the home app, I have a thing that says alarm because I named it alarm, but then it says, let me see, because it really doesn't make any sense. So let me see. Alarm, 50% brightness. Because it's picking up the name, but it also thinks the data point that it needs to expose by default is the light bulb that's built into the device. But then if I long press it, that's where I see on the left side the light, and on the right side the switch to arm my security system. Like, it makes absolutely no sense to group the features, the functionalities of this device within a single accessory. So I think that Apple, and I think folks on Reddit have been fighting a lot of raiders about this. There needs to be a way to ungroup them. Because then again, you have devices, for example, you have HomeKit accessories, products that are, for example, ceiling fans that also have a light. So in order to control your ceiling fan and your light, you're going to have to expand a device with a long press. And you're going to see the fan and the light together. Like, it makes very little sense. Like, I could see an argument for temperature sensors to group humidity and temperature together. Or, outlets that have multiple plugs. I can see why Apple thought of that. But you also have a collection of HomeKit devices that within the same physical accessory, you have wildly different functionalities. And to group them together is dysfunctional to the experience. For me, personally speaking, in addition to the security system, this is a problem because of the way that HomeKit, that my custom Homebridge televisions work. With the old LG TV package, I could see in iOS 12 different switches for things like PS4 channel or TV volume or, all the different features that I enabled as switches. But in iOS 13, because all those switches belong to a single accessory, they are now grouped together. And in order to use them, I need to always open a pop-up. And the UI makes absolutely no sense. It's got these super tall physical switches. And basically what used to occupy a single screen worth of tiles before now requires like 3 pages of scrolling in iOS 13. I need to open a pop-up menu, and then I need to scroll this immense list of super tall switches. I'm going to send you a screenshot, Mike, because you need to understand what I'm talking about here.
Yeah, I do.
It's even more than 3 pages.
Will this be a screenshot that I can include in the show notes or no?
This will absolutely be a screenshot that you can include in the show notes, because I think people need to visualize what I'm talking about here. So this is how a TV, the same accessory groups multiple switches. I'm sending that to you on iMessage. And I can also send you what the security system looks like when it's both a light and a siren.
Oh, this is bonkers. It's just a big list of switches that look exactly the same.
And for example, in Control Center, when you open the HomeKit tile, you will see that, for example, things like the Eve weather and Eve degree no longer give you the data points. They just say 2 sensors. They don't actually give you the numbers as soon as you open the HomeKit tile. It's really, with every change to the Home app, Apple makes one step forward, which in this case would be running a shortcut as part of automation, and 2 steps backwards. Like, what are you even doing with this UI? It makes absolutely no sense, especially in Control Center when you want to have fast access to all kinds of switches and details from sensors. So if you take a look at the Control Center screenshot, you will see the weather stuff, the temperature stuff, just says 2 sensors.
That's no good.
You need to expand it, and then you will see what it contains.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah. So I'm happy with this TV. I'm not happy with the way that HomeKit is changing in iOS 13. But otherwise, Samsung, good job. AirPlay 2 works fine. And also good job Shortcuts team, because now I can include my kitchen TV as part of the set playback destination action in Shortcuts. So I can automate my Samsung TV from Shortcuts natively because of AirPlay 2. But HomeKit team, seriously, take a look at, either listen to this episode and take a look at the screenshots in the show notes, or just try and go to reddit.com/r/HomeKit and in the search field type iOS 13 and you will see a whole bunch of complaints. Yep.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Are we done?
I think we're done.
Are you all tired out now?
I am a little exhausted, but it's a comment that Myke, I'm gonna say your favorite sentence. I can't believe nobody's talking about this.
If you want to find our show notes for this week, go to relay.fm/connected/253. If you want to find Federico online, he's at Viticci, Viticci, and you go to macstories.net and check out App Stories as well, because he's going to talk more about the shortcut stuff we were talking about earlier on in the episode. You can find me, I'm at iMyke, IMYKE. Thank you so much to our sponsors this week, Squarespace, Pingdom, and Text Expander. We'll be back next week. Until then, say goodbye, Federico.
Arrivederci.
Cheerio.